What's good, y'all? Let's get right into the video. The Utah Jazz have been holding Donovan Mitchell hostage, and I think we need to get him a new trade destination somewhere else other than Utah. He's not happy there. And the Utah Jazz just need to start this rebuild early. So, I've come up with a few trades I think that would speed up this rebuild process for Utah and put them in a great direction. Also, Utah, they've been looking more in the picks direction than player direction, something that the Oklahoma City Thunder kind of did. But I believe if they get enough or great enough players or young players, that they will be willing to set back a little bit on that pick conversation. So with that being said, let's get into these NBA trades. For the first trade, it's a two-team trade. Consists of Utah and the Charlotte Hornets. Utah, they will be receiving Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier, PJ Washington, James Bouknight, and Jalen McDaniels. While the Charlotte Hornets, they will get Donovan Mitchell, Jordan Clarkson, and Patrick Beverley. So, to start off with the trade, I like this for Utah because they get PJ Washington and James Bouknight, who are two young players that they'll get more PT on that team because the spotlight won't be on them and they'll have more time to develop. And then they just get cap filler veterans. And then the Charlotte Hornets, they'll have to throw in at least 2 picks for this to sweeten the deal. But I think that's enough compensation for them to give Donovan Mitchell up, but they're desperate. But in return, they get Donovan Mitchell, somebody who I think will pair great with LaMelo Ball because he's a facilitating point guard, and he needs a true scorer, and that's what Donovan Mitchell is. Only thing I see is it'll be a defensive liability with those two on the court at all times, but I think that this trade will show LaMelo that we want you here and we're going to do everything in our power to help you contend here, because the Charlotte Hornets are stuck in that mediocrity role, and I believe this trade will really elevate them and try and get them out of that role. This next trade is a more intriguing trade. It's a 4-team trade. The teams are Utah, Philadelphia, Atlanta, and Washington. Utah, they would get Jordan Clarkson, Will Barton, Monte Morris, and Tyrese Maxey. Philly, they get Donovan Mitchell, DeAndre Hunter, Justin Holiday. Atlanta, they get Tobias Harris, and Washington, they get Mike Conley and Lou Williams. To start this trade off, Utah, they get a great start to their rebuild with John Collins and Tyrese Maxey, two young stars, and Tyrese Maxey has a lot of potential in this league as a scorer, and we saw glimpses of him doing that in the playoffs. John Collins, somebody who's unhappy with his current situation in Atlanta, he'll get a fresh start in Utah, and I just think that that's a great start for them. Philly, they bring in Donovan Mitchell. This is great for them because if James Harden does what he's been doing and doesn't return to his Rockets isocentric ball, the ability for him to score, if he's just what we saw he was in the playoffs facilitating wise, Donovan Mitchell will pick up that slack offensively. They get DeAndre Hunter, who's another great wing defender that they can add to the team. Justin is really filler. Atlanta, they get Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris is a great shooter and will fill any need that Atlanta needs because they need, I believe, in their system more shooting, and I think he provides that because he's a great shooter and he'll fit into that system perfectly and seamlessly. Washington, they get Mike Conley, and I think that this makes sense for them because they want to try and make a push since they re-signed Bradley Beal to get Bradley Beal in a better position to win because they're kind of in that mediocrity role similar to Charlotte where they keep staying in the same spot. They're not going anywhere. They're not making a deep playoff run. They're not also getting a top draft pick. So they need to try and make a decision. And with them getting Porzingis and re-signing Bill, they made the decision to run it back with this team and try to compete. So I think that in this trade that Atlanta, they're going to need some pick compensation because they're giving up John Collins and DeAndre Hunter. So they're going to at least need 2 picks. Utah, they're going to need picks. They're going to at least need probably 3 to 2 picks in this trade. But if we get those picks in, I think this is the perfect trade for each team. This next trade, 3-team trade, the teams are Utah, Orlando, and New Orleans. Utah, they will get Jonathan Isaac, Gary Harris, Devontae Graham, and Jalen Suggs. Orlando, they get Donovan Mitchell, Larry Nance Jr., and New Orleans, they will be getting Mike Conley. Start off, what I want to talk about first is Donovan Mitchell to Orlando. I think this makes a lot of sense, and it'll push Orlando in a better direction of contention because if he goes to Orlando, they'll have like a starting lineup of Cole Anthony, Donovan Mitchell, Franz Wagner. They have Banchero on that team now. Wendell Carter's still there. They still have Mo Bamba. I think that this team could really make the play-in. And also, if he goes there, more people are probably going to want to play with them because Orlando, it's still Florida. They're like the Lakers and Clippers scenario, but Orlando's still in a nice situation, so I believe that they'll be able to pull free agents. Also, let's go to what Utah gets. Utah, they get Jonathan Isaac, somebody who can't stay healthy, but when healthy, he shows glimpses to be a great player. A potential, let me get that out, potential. It's not guaranteed. We don't know with him because he hasn't shown it yet. Jalen Suggs has potential to be an all-star. We haven't seen the best of him yet, I don't believe, and I don't want to judge him on his first few years in the league, but I think that he still has a lot of potential to be something great, and I think him going to Utah, it'll just help him develop over there, less of a spotlight, and it'll be his team. He doesn't have to worry about a bunch of other guards that he has to compete with, and I think that he's a great cornerstone to this trade because it'll put Utah on a great start to a rebuild. They get a new point guard. Mike Conley to the Pelicans, it needs to happen. The Pelicans, they've been wanting to contend now for a while, and I really believe that they have the ability to do it after what they showcased in the playoffs against the Suns. So with them adding Mike Conley to the point guard, you can move CJ back to his main position in shooting guard, and Zion coming back healthy, I could really see them making an impact in the playoffs. This next trade is more of a wacky trade, but I would like to see this trade go through. It's a 4-team trade. The teams are Utah, Toronto, Brooklyn, and the Lakers. To start off, Utah, they get Russell Westbrook, Gary Trent Jr., OG Anunoby, a rookie from the Raptors, Tyler Horn-Tucker, and Stanley Johnson. Toronto, they get Kevin Durant, Donovan Mitchell, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Kendrick Nunn, and Damian Jones. Brooklyn, they get Pascal Siakam, Scotty Barnes, Otto Porter Jr., Precious Achiuwa, and a filler player from the Lakers. While the Lakers, they will get Kyrie Irving, Joe Harris, Jordan Clarkson, Patrick Beverley, and a filler player from Utah. Let's get into the main thing. To me, the Lakers, they get a lot better. They get Kyrie Irving, somebody to fill that point guard role after trading Russ, and he fits into their system a lot better than Russ will. A great shooter in Joe Harris, which is something that LeBron needs, is shooters around him. Somebody who's a spark plug on offense, Jordan Clarkson, great six-man. Patrick Beverley, somebody who's going to provide defense and give the Lakers some type of grit to that team. Next, let's look at the Toronto Raptors. I believe that the Toronto Raptors, with them getting Kevin Durant and Donovan Mitchell in this trade, it'll make them real contenders. And their GM has came out and said that they want to contend, they don't want to tank and get more rookie players and rebuild. So I think this puts them in that direction because they will have Fred VanVleet, Donovan Mitchell, and KD. They get another shooter in Bogdan Bogdanovic, Kendrick Nunn, somebody who can play off the bench. And to be honest, a mid-center. But I think that this puts them in great positioning to win. Brooklyn, they get Pascal Siakam and Scotty Barnes. Pascal Siakam fits what Brooklyn wants to do because they don't have any of their picks, so they can't rebuild. So, great player that they get. Scotty Barnes, Rookie of the Year. Enough said, he has a lot of potential in this league. Then they get a young center in Precious Achiuwa. Utah, they get Gary Trent Jr. He's a younger player that they'll be willing to take in. The real player that they're looking at is OG and Tyler Horn-Tucker. Two young players. I think Tyler Horn-Tucker will do something similar to Kyle Kuzma, where once he moves off the team and he doesn't have the spotlight of the Lakers on him, he'll develop into a pretty nice player. OG, he's already a nice player, so he's the keystone to this trade. I believe that the Lakers, they'll be willing to give up both of their picks in this scenario because they significantly get better. So, I have two of their picks going to Utah. Toronto, they give up one of their picks to Utah. And then the Toronto Raptors, they'll give up 2 picks to Brooklyn. I don't think that Brooklyn need too many picks in this trade because they get Scotty Barnes. So I think this trade works out. For the last trade of the video, it's a 4-team trade. The teams are Utah, Charlotte, Brooklyn, and New Orleans. Start off, Utah, they get Gordon Hayward, Devontae Graham, PJ Washington, James Bouknight, Kyra Lewis, and Kai Jones. Charlotte, they get Donovan Mitchell, Larry Nance, and Royce O'Neal. Brooklyn, they get Brandon Ingram, Patrick Beverley, Jackson Hayes, Dyson Daniels, and Herb Jones. New Orleans, they get Kevin Durant, Mike Conley, Jordan Clarkson. Let's just get into the New Orleans side of things. Oh my God, this team would be saucy. So you're telling me that you get Mike Conley, someone to put at the point, plus Kevin Durant. Yes, they're giving up Brandon Ingram, which is somebody who fits their timeline because he's younger. But with Kevin Durant, it speeds up your timeline. And also, if you have Kevin Durant, you can move Zion to the small forward position, which I think he fits better at because he doesn't have that height to him. So if this trade goes through, you'll have a lineup of Mike Conley, CJ, Zion, KD, Valanciunas. The floor spacing there is phenomenal for Zion to flourish. And I believe in this type of offense, Zion, you'll see a lot more playmaking from him. And Zion won't have to take in so much of an offensive load. So I believe you'll see Zion put more effort on the defensive end. Then they also get Jordan Clarkson, somebody that can come off the bench and give them great minutes and provide a lot of scoring. Brooklyn, they get Brandon Ingram, somebody that is similar to Kevin Durant in a lot of aspects. Herb Jones is somebody that I know in a trade with the Pelicans, Brooklyn would be looking at because he has a lot of upside and potential. Dyson Daniels, he's a rookie that the New Orleans Pelicans just got, but I think he fits with this Brooklyn team well, and he'll be able to develop in Brooklyn. Let's look at the Charlotte Hornets. Like I've said earlier in the earlier trade, Donovan Mitchell, LaMelo, bread and butter. Utah, they get a few young players to start off, and I think since they're not getting much, they're going to need a lot more pick compensation. But New Orleans has those picks. They got a lot of picks in that Anthony Davis trade. So I say Utah, they at least get 3 or 4 picks. And Brooklyn, they will need 3 or 4 picks too. So Charlotte, they'll probably have to give up 2 picks to Utah. New Orleans, they throw in a pick. And then New Orleans, they'll give up 3 picks to Brooklyn. And I think that this is a great trade on all fronts, like I've said for all the other trades. Thank y'all for watching this video. If y'all made it through, I appreciate y'all for real. Leave your comments on what you think on these trades, or if you have your trade ideas and thoughts. Drop down some video ideas you would like to see. I appreciate y'all. NBA Sphinx out.